All right, let's talk about our second topic, which is the MCU in the second half of 2023. So, on this podcast, I haven't had a chance to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I haven't had a chance to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Just to sort of recap my quick thoughts on those two films, I enjoyed Quantumania. I think a lot of people, a lot of MCU fans at least, enjoyed Quantumania. I think a lot of non-MCU fans really didn't enjoy Quantumania. I had some problems with it. Obviously, I think that I think the visual aesthetic of the film is very odd. It feels very fake a lot of the time. I think that Kang was really cool in the film. But the way that they're setting up Kang as a villain doesn't feel as compelling as other characters. People have pointed out that he's died in every appearance that he's come in, and that's true. I mean, it goes to show sort of like, how are we going to say that this villain is formidable if you're just going to kill him every single time? And then if the argument is that he's just going to, appear in different variants every single time, that's not as interesting to me. But anyways, just sticking with Quantumania as a film in itself, I think that, I think I think there was very, very little development for the characters. I think that was one of the other points that really kind of stuck with me, is that Scott, I mean, he has the sense of sort of paranoia at the end of the film, but it just didn't feel like the characters did much of anything at all. They defeated Kang, they got out. The end. Okay, great. So I enjoyed Quantumania. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. And it's sort of just there. And Kang was in there, and that was that. Then we had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 twice now, and I enjoyed it. I know some people say it's one of the greatest MCU films since Endgame, since No Way Home. I don't agree with that in particular, though I will say that the first two Guardians films were not necessarily my favorite in the MCU. I did really enjoy them. I really liked the first Guardians film. I enjoy the second one. I think it has its moments, and I think it has some really good emotional moments at the end as well. But the Guardians have never been my all-time favorite franchise in the MCU. For just to say that, I think that the third film sort of falls very squarely in line with the first and second films. I think I would put Volume 3 pretty much about as in the middle between Volume 1, which I have first of the trilogy, and Volume 2, which I have third in the trilogy. I think it's about as even as you can get. And I think that James Gunn made three very solid, good films. I think that the emotion and the humor that you're able to get, while the humor, I think, bent on a little bit too silly, too shticky, if that makes sense. Like, I know a lot of people sort of enjoy the ways in which James Gunn is able to manipulate humor and have characters just have these weird conversations in the middle of fight scenes or whatever. I think that worked incredibly well for a show like Peacemaker, where characters are just riffing and talking about all these sorts of random things. Because, I mean, I have the time to invest in a TV show. When I'm in a 2-hour movie and I'm watching this 3-minute bit about Drax putting his feet up on the couch, it feels a little bit unnecessary to me, if that makes sense. But I know that that's James Gunn's sensibilities as a filmmaker, and it's just not for me in that sense. At least in a movie, because I really did like that in Peacemaker. But I think that the emotion that they brought was incredible. It was really good. I think that the characters are really well set up, and I think that the way that they ended it, felt like a good way to end out James Gunn's time in the MCU. That being said, one thing that is severely lacking in the MCU right now is cohesion. And I think that this has been the case basically the entirety of Phase 4. There is very little cohesion. You have individual storylines that are beginning to sort of maybe lead somewhere, although I have frankly no idea if that's the case. For example, WandaVision and Spider-Man No Way Home to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, with Loki kind of hanging around there. Like, that's maybe something. And then you have, I don't know, Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, maybe leading to your Captain America Brave New World, which it got a new title, very cool. And Thunderbolts, okay. And maybe kind of Hawkeye in there as well. Okay, sure. And then you have, frankly, I don't know what to do with Moon Knight. Frankly, I don't know what to do with Guardians 3. It just feels like there's really no, or She-Hulk for that matter. It frankly feels like there's very little cohesion in the MCU right now, because while when the MCU was just 6 Avengers, right? Post the first Avengers, it was very easy to say, look, in Iron Man 3, Iron Man's off on his own own adventures. And the other members of the MCU, the others, 5 Avengers, they're just doing their own things as well. And there's 6 people, and Nick Fury just somewhere hanging out. And Nick Fury, look, was in The Winter Soldier, and so was Black Widow. So it kind of felt like, hey, that makes sense, right? So, like, you have Iron Man doing his own thing on Earth, in California, maybe. And then you have, Thor in space somewhere. Okay, that's fine. And you have Cap and Black Widow doing their own thing with Nick Fury, and then you have Hulk somewhere doing something, and Hawkeye doing something. It made sense, right? Because the world was a lot bigger, and it felt like there was room for all of these Avengers. Well, now post Endgame, it just feels like there isn't enough room for all of the characters that are appearing. Like, yes, you can say that, okay, maybe She-Hulk is kind of hanging out in LA, and maybe, Hawkeye is hanging out in New York, but then there's also Spider-Man, and there's also Daredevil and Kingpin, which I guess are sort of crossing over, and then they're going to introduce Echo in there. What about New Jersey with Agatha? What about literally a Celestial appearing out of the sky, and in London, like, nobody seems freaked out about that. What about a frozen Celestial in the middle of the ocean? It just feels disjointed, and I think what we're more used to is these storylines interconnecting and weaving together in a way that feels cohesive. So while on the surface, right, we could have a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that was separate from the MCU. We then, very closely before that had Captain America Civil War, and we very closely after that had Spider-Man Homecoming, which, connected very well to the fabric of the MCU. Even Black Panther, at least, was introduced in Civil War. And Thor Ragnarok had the Hulk. So it feels like the MCU is missing that. And look, I have not hated any bit of MCU content. The closest that I've gotten is probably She-Hulk. And even She-Hulk, I enjoyed some bits of it. I didn't hate other bits of it, like with a passion, but I didn't like a lot of it. But I didn't hate it. So, I think that quality-wise, like, it's about the quality, because I think that there are certain bits of MCU content that are lacking the quality for sure. But I also think that it's about sort of what made the MCU so special, which is that the MCU is not just a bunch of individual properties. It's also a collection of stories that are leading to a bigger story, which is, I guess, for now, the Kang Dynasty. We'll see what happens with Jonathan Majors, but the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. So all that to say is that I think that the rest of 2023 for the MCU, and actually 2024 for that matter, are going to be very important for setting up what is going to happen going forward. I think that we're going to be able to start seeing some connective tissues going on, and I wanted just to talk about what we should expect from the rest of 2023 heading into 2024 for the MCU. So first of all, we have Secret Invasion. Now, Secret Invasion is already a show that I think is going to tie together a lot of loose threads, because, I mean, literally, and this is not speculation, right? It's not like, I don't know, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where we're like, is Spider-Man going to show up? It's literally, we have the War Machine, Rhodey, who seems to be some sort of pivotal figure in the government, and we have Everett Ross is back, we have Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill, and then the show is obviously billed as Samuel L. Jackson's sort of show as Nick Fury, but also Ben Mendelsohn is there as Talos. There might even be there actually probably definitely will be some Captain Marvel tie-ins, because Nick Fury shows up in the Marvels, which we'll talk about in just a second. So I think Secret Invasion is going to start drawing together a lot of maybe some of these Earth threads, right? Like you have your Wakandan governments, maybe your vibranium wars or whatever's going on with Wakanda Forever, and you have your sort of government espionage, maybe Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You have your war machines there. So I think that a lot of maybe the Earth kind of based threats, especially the more grounded ones, are going to start being tied together with Secret Invasion, and that's really exciting. And on top of that, it just looks like a really fun show as well. And then you have the Marvels, which is the third and last movie to come out in 2023. And the Marvels obviously leads directly from Secret Invasion, in the sense that I guess Nick Fury survives, although I don't know, maybe that Nick Fury is a Skrull, who knows? I guess that's sort of the excitement about Secret Invasion, is that maybe not so much that you don't think that Nick Fury is going to survive, but rather that you don't quite know what Nick Fury you're looking at any given point in these trailers and promo materials. So that's exciting. But yeah, I think that, The Marvels is another movie that's going to connect a lot of things. It's going to connect sort of the more cosmic power base that the MCU has. So you have your Kamala Khan, and you have your Monica Rambeau's character from WandaVision and character from Miss Marvel. And on top of that, I think Miss Marvel is priming to set up a connection between Shang-Chi, which with the Bengals and with the Ten Rings as well. So you're starting to connect these sort of power bases together as well. And I think that that's really interesting. So I'm hoping that these two properties can begin to sort of allow the MCU to coalesce into something that's a little bit more cohesive. I mean, the elephant in the room is still the Eternals. I have no idea what's going on with them. But I'm hoping that they will sort of begin to make their presence known in the future. On top of that, we have 2 more shows coming out in 2023. We have Loki Season 2, which, frankly, I mean, Loki Season 2, what I'm hoping for in Loki Season 2 is just a better explanation of the TVA and sort of time travel, and maybe a better idea of where we're heading in sort of the bigger picture. So while Miss Marvel and Secret Invasion, while The Marvels and Secret Invasion might be sort of tying up these storylines, it's these sort of sub-storylines, I guess, within the MCU. I'm hoping that Loki will drive us towards a bigger final picture. As for Echo, which will come out in November and which will drop all of its episodes at once, which I frankly don't know if that means that they just really don't have confidence in the show or not. I think that Echo is sort of a vestige of let's give everyone a spin-off show, which is great. Like I think Maya Lopez was a fine part of Hawkeye, and I'm interested in the character, but when I think Marvel is being spread too thin, you have your Agatha show and your Echo show, and I'm like, sure, okay, I'm interested, but I think that Echo will obviously establish her as a character, but will also lead into Daredevil Born Again, which I'm hoping will also begin to sort of tie together sort of the New York City storyline. So your Hawkeyes and your Spider-Man No Way Homes. Your Falcon and Winter Soldiers maybe a little bit as well. Daredevil Born Again being 18 episodes is going to have, I would assume, a pretty big impact in the MCU. And so I'm excited about that. So I think, and Daredevil Born Again will come out in 2024. And then just looking forward a little bit to 2024, like obviously you have your Blades and your Deadpool 3s, which, I think will be fun. Hopefully, given the production delays with the writer's strike and the script issues with Blade. But, I think also the 2 big tentpole films that year are going to be Thunderbolts and are going to be Captain America: Brave New World. And I think those 2 films will really give us a better sense as well of what the state of the Avengers are and what the state of the world really is in the MCU. And so I'm hoping that what Captain America: Brave New World and Thunderbolts can do is tie together basically everything across the MCU that isn't magical or cosmic or TVA related, because I think that those, as long as we can tie together a lot of other things and sort of get a better picture of what the Avengers are like, and sort of see what kind of team of heroes we're going to be, using moving forward, I think that would be a really big win for Marvel. So I'm talking literally everything from your Falcon and Winter Soldier, even Shang-Chi if possible, your Hawkeyes, obviously, with Yelena Belova, your Spider-Man No Way Homes, even, although maybe a little bit less. So I don't know about Moon Knight, maybe Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, maybe, but then things like Black Widow, obviously, having a big influence with Taskmaster, Yelena, and the Red Guardian, as well as, you could even tie in the Eternals if the rumors are true that the Tiamat sort of big giant Eternal or Celestial in the middle of the ocean is sort of a catalyst, but as well as She-Hulk, maybe the Hulks will be involved with the leader's involvement in Captain America: Brave New World. So there are a lot of possibilities and ways. Obviously, Wakanda Forever as well. Maybe with the War for Vibranium. I think that there are a lot of ways to really bring a lot of these storylines together, and that's what I'm hoping that the MCU can do moving forward. Because again, what I think we're missing right now is just a sense of direction. I think the quality of the projects have been fairly good, but I also think that a lot of it has to do with just a lack of direction from the MCU as a whole. So we'll see where we go from here.